Work on today is we obviously had a bell ringer. We will have a very quick mini lesson on close reading, and then y'all are going to do some independent reading following the same strategy that we use for close reading. Our standard for today is RL 9.3, which is essentially we're going back to I can identify character traits in To Kill a Mockingbird, which we haven't done To Kill a Mockingbird, but we have talked about character traits. So that is what we're sort of reverting back to. All right, so I'd just like to really briefly go over our methods of indirect characterization. And so I just pulled up the YouTube video where I talked about this. So we have 5 main ways we can identify indirect characterization in literature or poetry. Number 1 is speech. So anything a character says. Number 2 is thoughts and feelings. So what is our character thinking or feeling? E is effect on others, what they think or say. How does another character react when our character is talking or when our character walks into the room? We can also look at their actions, so what the character does, or their looks, so like the way they are, their appearance is. So those are our methods of indirect characterization. That's steal, right? And so that is what we're going to be looking at as we read this excerpt from To Kill a Mockingbird. So our directions are to read and annotate this excerpt from Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. Pay special attention to the way Lee uses descriptive details to emphasize Tom Robinson's character traits. Okay, so I gave you a key. First, I want you to, which I'm actually going to do this. So first, I'm going to describe details that emphasize Tom's character traits. Then I'm going to highlight metaphors that further the reader's knowledge of Tom's character traits and or impediments. Okay, so what we are going to do is I'm going to read this whole excerpt without writing on it. After I do that, then it will be time to go in and look at what we're going to underline, descriptive details, and we'll read it one more time, and then we'll look at metaphors finally in our last read. Okay, so first round, we're not going to touch it, we're not going to write on it. Thomas Robinson reached around, ran his fingers under his left arm and lifted it. He guided his warm arm to the Bible, and his rubber-like left hand sought contact with the black binding. As he raised his right hand, the useless one slipped off the Bible and hit the clerk's table. He was trying again when Judge Taylor growled, "That'll do, Tom." Tom took the oath and stepped into the witness chair. Atticus very quickly introduced him to tell us. Tom was 25 years of age. He was married with 3 children. He had been in the trouble with law before. He once received 30 days for disorderly conduct. And then a little bit later, it says, Tom was a black velvet Negro, not shiny, but soft black velvet. The whites of his eyes shone in his face, and when he spoke, we saw flashes of his teeth. If he had been whole, he would have been a fine specimen of a man. All right, so that's our very first reading. We are looking for character traits, obviously, of Tom Robinson. And that is our first impression of him. And so as I'm reading, I'm really noticing that, okay, Tom is a man that is in court for some reason. We don't really know why, but we know he's in court. And for some reason, there's something wrong with his arm. We hear this weird, like, rubber-like left hand and stuff. So there's some interesting description, and we don't really get much explanation of that description, but we can use that to make some assumptions. Okay, so underline descriptive details that emphasize Tom's character traits. We're going to read it again. Thomas Robinson reached around, ran his fingers under his left arm, and lifted it. This right here is an action, and it's telling us a little bit about Tom. He has to physically move his arm. He takes his right arm and he moves his left. That's the only way he can move it. He guided his arm to the Bible and his rubber-like left hand. Rubber-like left hand. That's something special. That's meaningful right there. Sought contact with the black binding. As he raised his hand, the useless one, so the way they describe this arm, it is rubber-like. It is useless. One slipped off the Bible and hit the clerk's table. He was trying again. I think that's meaningful too. He was going to try. He was going to try to put his hand on the Bible. When Judge Taylor growled, "That'll do, Tom," Tom took the oath and stepped into the witness chair. Atticus was very quickly introduced him to tell us. Tom was 25 years of age. He was married with 3 children. He had been in trouble with the law before. He once received 30 days for disorderly conduct. That right there is pretty much just stating fact. We could underline some stuff because it's sort of description, but not really. It's not what we're looking for. Then it continues. Tom was a black velvet Negro. Not shiny, but soft black velvet. So a person that's reading has this admiration. He thinks he has really beautiful skin, right? But soft black velvet. If the whites of his eyes shone in his face, and when he spoke, we saw flashes of his teeth. This is just, we're seeing, they're making this image of what Tom looks like. The whites of his eyes shone in his face. And those are almost positive, redeeming qualities in him. This iridescent, he has this soft black velvet skin. The whites of his eyes shone in his face. When he spoke, there were flashes of his teeth. This paragraph is almost sympathetic. Not even sympathetic, but almost, I feel that there's some positive vibes, we're going to say, for Thomas Robinson in this paragraph. And then it continues to say, if he had been whole, he would have been a fine specimen of a man. And that right there hits you right in the gut, I feel like. I mean, gosh, if he had been whole, he would have been a fine specimen of a man. But he's not whole. And are you only beautiful if you're whole? These are questions that I need answers to. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you our metaphors here. If he had been whole, then what? Then he would have been beautiful, right? Then he would have been a fine specimen of a man. And that's big, y'all. So this begs the question, if he had been, quote, whole, then what? He would be beautiful? Can't you be beautiful and not perfect? But then I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When it comes to reading, we are always pulling back a layer. So is his whole being, is that his physical body? Is this whole referring to his physically broken body? Or is it referring, that's not how you spell that, sorry y'all, to the way in which he is constantly, the way in which he has been accused of a crime that he hasn't committed and is now sentenced to rot for that thing, right? To rot for this thing. And we could get deeper into this. We could talk very critically about how Harper Lee is using her language and what she is trying to say here. We could pull in other texts from other parts of the novel, but this is all we have. So, excuse me, y'all. As you read your excerpt, this is the kind of exercise you're going to do. You are reading from the same chapter, from chapter 19. You are searching for character traits in Mayella. So Mayella is the girl that makes the accusation against Tom. And so you'll be reading, searching for character traits about her. But I need you to pay attention to your directions because they're a little bit different. Again, you are highlighting descriptive details, and then you are going to actually underline the point of view character's thoughts and decode what those might be by what those might mean by commenting on the text. So, highlight, comment, just like that. And so, depending on what the reader, you are the reader, what the point of view character is thinking about her, that will mean some other things to us. Because, we can learn about a character from the effect they have on others, what they think or say, right? Those are things we can learn from. So that is your goal as you're reading this. You are searching for character traits of these characters. All right, let me know if you need me. Send me an email, and I will see y'all again soon. Bye-bye.